All right. Well, welcome everyone. I hope everyone can hear us okay online. Got some thumbs up, and it sounds like everyone can hear me okay in the room. Great. I'm Don Smith Lopez. I'll be helping facilitate today's conversation. I wanted to make some introductions, who you will see on camera and who will be sharing some information in just a moment. Reverend Cameron Trimble, which you all should remember, the amazing seminar that we had, I think, January of last year. It's been almost a year since Cameron came out and joined us and had an amazing day long seminar where we learned so much and it was very interactive. And we also have with us Anna Hall, who is also with Convergence. And Anna is really the guru with all things survey and demographics and putting together our survey report. Which you all I know has been shared widely in the bulletin and in the newsletter. And so hopefully you all have had a chance to take a look at the survey. So just to let you all know what we're going to be doing today, we are going to, after these introductions, we're going to have about 7 minutes or so of high level of intent of the conversation from Reverend Cameron and from Anna. And then Anna will be sharing the summary of the Convergence survey. And that was in the report that you all hopefully had a chance to read. And then Cameron's going to also share her top 5 takeaways, or perhaps more than 5 takeaways from the survey. And then we'll also be sharing how Convergence could potentially help us with our settled minister search. As you all know, we just stood up the search committee. I know the search committee met this morning and have already started doing their work, which is obviously very important for the future of our church. After that, we're going to have plenty of time for feedback, questions from you all. So Dar's going to be helping me with the mic. Just again, it's always a reminder. We'll remind you again, just make sure you have a mic if you do have a question so that folks online will be able to hear your question as well. And then Reverend Donna is going to spend a couple of minutes with her takeaways and also offer us input as we wrap up. All right, so let's get started. So Cameron, Anna, I will turn it over to you. And are you all going to be sharing some slides? So if you want to
Yes.
just go ahead and display and take it away.
Can everyone see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Wonderful. Hi, I'm Anna Hall. I work here at Convergence, and my background is in qualitative research and congregational change and congregational learning and organizational development. I did that work through Master's of Public Administration, a seminary degree, and a PhD in organizational learning with a qualitative certificate. And so out of that, we designed our assessment process to bring together all of the many threads that affect congregational vitality. And so the things we measure are intentional based on the peer reviewed literature and our experiences in consulting. And it was a delight to be able to do this work with you through a survey for the congregation. I hope many of you took it. You had a great response rate. A survey for your leaders, as well as an analysis of your communication, social media, photos of your facilities. Cameron made a visit, all of those things. And so I am just going to do a really quick overview because, as you saw, the report is quite lengthy. So I'm hoping you had a chance to review the full report because you won't get all that here, but you have access to it. What I'm going to do is hit the highlights of the report so that we can frame this conversation and question and answer session. So there's your beautiful building with your banner. So, what we know from our assessment is that your congregation is spiritually vital. You have a highly engaged, long serving, and progressive membership that's committed to social justice. While in person worship attendance has declined since 2019 pre pandemic, it has stabilized since the year after the pandemic, I think 2021. Um, what we see is that you guys are financially manageable. No church is rich these days, but you have an opportunity for growth in connecting with your neighbors because a lot of their values align with yours. I'll talk more about that in a second. They are largely unaffiliated with any congregation. However, you are facing some challenges that are still lingering from the conflict that you went through, and also through some resistance to change, which can play a role in conflict and also a role in moving forward with a successful pastor search and settlement. So we don't want those to hinder you as you try to move forward. So let me just go slightly deeply into the data. You know who you are. But what we found through the survey, we had 249 responses that most of you have attended for quite a long time. Although you did have some survey respondents who had joined in the last 3 to 5 years, even some less than a year. You're highly engaged. People are attending worship several times a month or more, the vast majority there. Predominantly older, as we see in most congregations these days in the main line. 65% of respondents were over 66. However, you did have some survey respondents in the younger age groups, and 17% of survey respondents said that their households contained children. So we did get the voices of households that contained young people. You are predominantly racially homogenous. 95.3% identified as white, non Hispanic, so not highly racially diverse. You're highly educated, as you may know. 70% have completed grad school, and 70% of you all live within 5 miles. And for some reason, this sentence decided to go off the slide. But your budget was met in 2024 by giving and other income, and 51% of survey respondents describe your budget currently as tight but manageable. So it's just a high level statistical data there. We saw some strengths in the data. There is a high optimism. 87% of members are excited about the church's future that took the survey anyway. Um, Over 90% agree you're spiritually vital, has a clear mission, work for social justice, and is like a close knit family. The church is highly active in community work, prioritizing food insecurity, affordable housing, and marginalized people. And your members reported over 9,800 congregational volunteer hours and 15,000 non congregational volunteer hours. So you are doing a lot, and that's worth celebrating. You certainly intend to and believe yourselves to be welcoming to those of many races, sexualities, and genders. I mean, welcome always happens in the execution, but you are intending to be welcoming, and I celebrate that as well. So survey respondents would love to see a greater sense of community and hope, calling a new minister, and growing in both congregants and in spiritual life. Um, this word cloud actually goes with the next slide that got misplaced. But what we see there is this is when we asked what could hold you back. We see that your survey respondents themselves identified change resistance as a concern. Also, some concerns I noticed in the data is the recent major conflict over a ministerial turnover situation. 95% of your respondents had experienced a conflict in the past 2 years. While we know one happened, so it's not a surprise. 74% said it was major, where people may have left the congregation or withheld donations. And you had some fairly low scores on handling things openly and receiving training on healthy conflict. So this is an area you'll want to work on. Resistance to change. Your data suggests that your members are ambivalent about change. So you're not the worst I've seen, but especially if you're welcoming a new minister soon, you want to make sure you're maybe the best. So 87% say you're always ready to try something new, but the sticky areas are that 65% say you're more comfortable when things remain the same, and 62% say putting a new idea in action takes a long time. And we want those to be less than 50% to be really skilled at change there. Particularly when you have a new person coming in leadership, they are going to have lots of new ideas. And we don't want to see that rub up against some tension and some maybe lingering patterns of unhealthy communications. Your worship attendance has declined from 2019 before the pandemic, but it has been sort of steady between 162 and 230 depending on the season and the week since 2021. And so what we would say is that is a stable attendance level for these times, especially since less people go to church as often and we see a lot of transients where people are moving for work, or especially in a college town, you know that. So I think that is stable, but it does feel like a challenge to people who are comparing your congregation to how it was in the 2000s or in the 1990s, or whatever imaginary number we've decided like is the goal. I would say that compared with many congregations, you are not currently in decline in your attendance patterns, and so it's seen as a challenge, but it may not actually be your challenge right now. um, this is another little stickiness about welcome. I said you guys intend to be welcome, and I definitely celebrate that, but 90% want to be. Only 52% of members make a point to speak to new people in worship. So you may need to just brush up your welcome a little bit, especially to welcome a new pastor, people who may come out of curiosity to see a new pastor, these things. You have a great opportunity in your neighborhood. The immediate neighborhood is really more alike with your congregation in terms of their values. They're also younger, more racially diverse, and they're not as well off. Now, I know college towns, and what I would say is that in the South, I'm from the South, I'm from South Georgia. I would say that your surrounding community of Gainesville is going to have some conservative voices in it for sure. But when you get close to the area where you're seeing students and professors and other people who are attracted to the college atmosphere, you're going to find your people, meaning the people who are like you in their values, tolerance, environmentalism, economic justice, diversity. And the demographic reports from Mission Insights seem to suggest they're actually the closer in neighbors that are closer to your building. And so I think your banner is fantastic. Any other ways you can make sure they know that you are in line with those values will be a great opportunity for you. So these are my key takeaways. So, Cameron may have some different ones, Donna may have some different ones, but these are the key takeaways I found in the data. First, it will be essential that you undergo continued work on healing and building healthy communication and healthy conflict skills. I celebrate that you've worked on a behavioral covenant, but of course, that's just the beginning and not the end of the work. So, when unhealthy communication occurs, and it will, none of us are perfect, we must be willing to name it and offer whatever pastoral care or peer support is needed to redirect us into communicating in more healthy ways. We don't always learn this stuff growing up or at work or in our communities. As we know, it's a very divisive world right now, but we can all learn it now. And so I would say training on healthy communication is essential for not letting this hold you back, as well as possibly, once that work is done, you may still need some healing work. There were some comments in the survey that suggested people are still hurting from the conflict that you went through, and that's not uncommon. And so you may find that to get full resolution, you also need to do some healing work, not necessarily to relitigate anything at all. That's not what that's for, but it would just be to determine what we need to move forward in love together, or what we need to move forward in going on our own individual journeys that may lead us different places than UCG if people feel that that resolution is not possible. And of course, this takes skillful facilitation and holding everybody in pastoral care, but this work will set you up well, because whenever a new pastor comes in, there are going to be things that are sticking points. There always are. They're not you and you're not them. And we want you to be prepared to welcome and work in healthy ways together, as you do that work, settling a new pastor. So the second piece I thought was very important was working on your change skills. So we do not naturally have skills for change in our bodies or our brains. Our cave woman or caveman brains are like, that new thing is scary. It could be a lion. We have to work on this. Every person has to work on this, especially in a time right now when things are so unsettled. We can be even more resistant to change because our nervous systems are frayed by our current world. Let me just say that. So, unfortunately, though, if we don't build our skills for change, we can't listen to what God is calling us to do. We can't welcome new insights and new ideas from a new pastor. We can't pivot when things change in our building or our neighborhood. And so we know you're probably tired of change. We all are tired of change right now. And yet, this is work that has to be done. And so there are two key ways I think can help build change skills. Again, this is what my dissertation research focused on, so it's my favorite subject. I think first, talking about the spirituality and theology of change, about how it's built into our spiritual journeys and where God is in change. talking about the challenges and the gifts of change, being upfront when things are hard, and caring for each other in that. And then I think it's also important to just try new things frequently. And these can be small things, but I think worship is often a great place to try something new a lot, maybe even weekly. I would love to see that. But again, we have to be explicit. We are trying new hymns this season, or we are trying new prayers this season because we believe that we have to be skilled at change to listen to what God is calling us to do. So being honest about why you're doing it so it doesn't feel like it's blindsiding anybody. It also helps you welcome newcomers because they not only do they have new ideas, but if you're trying new things every week, you're all in the same boat together, as opposed to 200 people who know how to do it and one new person who doesn't. You're all learning together. And so it can really help with welcome as well. This one I think is especially key. Role clarity. Again, my dissertation, I mentioned it was on congregational change. What you may not know is that it was actually on pastoral transitions. So I've spent a lot of time studying pastoral transitions. And one thing that is so important is clarity about roles and responsibilities. So you guys just went through a realignment. And I know that took so much of your time and attention, and it was not without its fallout. But continuing this work is essential. So, as you've been working on your bylaws and organizational charts and all that, I want to make sure that you considered these questions, all of your formal and informal roles and responsibilities. So, informal roles can often be a real sticking point to change if they are not named. It also can cause tension and conflict. It's called role conflict. We teach about it in our healthy communications class. So, who exactly is doing each thing? Who exactly is deciding each thing? What is not getting done? What is not getting decided? What is surprising people because they didn't expect the person who did it to do it, etc. And that includes how decisions are made. And it also includes any informal power systems that are causing tension with formal ones. So if you have some people who are just super influential and yet they're not in any of your structures, it can be confusing because let's say the council is in support of something, but one person is in opposition and then it doesn't happen. Well, why is that? So be talking about that and also be talking about how you're measuring the success of these responsibilities. Do you even still need all the roles that are in your bylaws? Sometimes that can hold us back. Again, if some voices are overpowering others due to like affection, a beloved person, or an influence, sometimes a big giver can have a bigger voice. Let's talk about that and make sure that things are explicit, equal, fair, and they match the polity you are intending to have. And finally, making sure you notice who's over functioning because burnout and harm can come from that, as well as if somebody's pulled to their limit, their ability to handle change is also really not great. So let's work on making sure people aren't over functioning and burning out. And so talking about this stuff openly, honestly, admitting where it's a struggle will set you up for success as you incorporate a new leader. Finally, I know you guys have been working on this with your celebration. That's been a big focus of you guys' work lately. But I think going forward, even before you call a new pastor, it is worth thinking through who you are called to be in 2026 and beyond. I mean, it's almost 2026, right? And so, without some sort of focus, to just say you want to be a church in 2026, it's not going to give you a good decision making matrix for your work or even for your selection of a new pastor. Knowing who you want to be. We want to be the church that does what in 2026 for our community, for our participants, for the world. Once you know that, that helps you make all other decisions, including clarifying around your search process. Who would be the best pastor to lead you to do all of those great things? And I think it's important that it's concise and that it is actionable. And I think doing that will really, really help you set yourself up for success with your transition. And those are my takeaways. I know that Cameron and Donna may have other things they want to highlight. And the full report, again, is available to you when you want to look at it, all 40 something pages of it.
Thanks, Anna. Cameron, turning it over to you.
All right. So I'm so incredibly lucky to get to work with brilliant colleagues like Anna who can crunch numbers. Having observed her give presentations like this, I want to assure you she was very brief in the summary of this data. So I do hope you take the time to really dig in. That the assessment work that she does is just phenomenal, and the details and the little nuggets of insight are in that longer report. It's worth you spending some time there. I am in full alignment with everything, the kind of the high level observations and recommendations that Anna just made. And I mean, it feels like it's been like 10 lifetimes since I was with you all, doesn't it? Like, I mean, the whole world has just um like I start every meeting these days with people, we always ask, how are you? And forgive my French on this, but I start every meeting these days with, well, the world's a shit show, but I'm doing okay. So I don't know if we're all kind of feeling that disconnect in a way, but we are, I think, finding our way into kind of a rhythm of resistance, a rhythm of uh, of fighting for the common good. And when we were together, we had a long conversation about how uniquely positioned you all are as a congregation to lean into that kind of ministry, that kind of work, that do-goodery that you all has been a part of your history. It's sort of a natural instinct within you to care for the people in your community. So I hope that that you've not only continued that but deepened that work, especially now as people are not able to access food or the SNAP program and just all the disruptions that are channeling down to our local areas. You all are the weavers of the relational fabric of your community, and you have always done that well, as near as I can tell, and I hope that you're just deepening that. Let me tell you a little bit about how we can collaborate together in finding your next minister, and then I'm going to be quiet, and then we'll open it for conversation. And as you all know, I can riff for hours, so we could be here for a long time. And so maybe other recommendations get surfaced in our dialogue together. But so a part of the challenge of living in a mainline system is particularly one that's kind of deconstructing, as most of our mainline systems are right now, is finding leadership is particularly challenging. Made even more so because you guys are in a state with this amazing governor named Ron DeSantis, who is just a magnet, right? Just everybody wants to move to Florida right now. So gratefully, because you all are such a cool church and you're in such a dynamic and interesting area, I'm really hopeful that we'll be able to find someone who is just fantastic and is a really great match. The starting place for your work you're already doing, which is to work with your conference staff and to stay in close alignment with them. They have access to a pool of candidates that apply through the UCC system, and there's a certain rhythm to that. What's also true is that there are not enough clergy people to fill the positions that we have available, and the most talented clergy people are generally serving congregations and are probably happy where they are. And so what we're now finding is that instead of being a kind of passive in our searching, that we actually need to go recruit really talented folks to consider churches like yours. So our team does that work. Most conference staff would not actively recruit pastors from other conferences. We certainly will, and we will try to find you a robust pool to consider as you're in your search. The man on our team who heads that work is a man named Greg Carlson, who I don't think you all have had a chance at to meet as a congregation yet. Some in your congregation have met Greg. He's really great. He knows how to do this work. work with your search committee. We'll work with or kind of in rhythm with the conference staff so that we stay in alignment. But we're able to kind of go out and do recruitment in a way that's a bit more, let's say, creative than maybe denominational leaders might be able to do. And hopefully it's a complementary process so that we find a really good candidate for you. That choice is up to you. So what we do is bring you ideas and names of folks, and they will have indicated interest. So they're not cold calls. But then it's a very careful discernment that you all will need to go through on choosing your next leader. But as we've said, you guys are healthy. You are sane. At least you were in January, and I think the data, Anna, I think it points that you all are solid, and so you're in a really good position, particularly with Donna's leadership and help, to find somebody great. So we'll join you on that journey.
Thanks, Cameron. You've got us all laughing a lot in here. That's great.
Good.
All right, so we'll turn it over for questions. Folks online, Arwen and Holly are monitoring the chat. So if there are any questions, are there any questions currently? Nope. First question right here.
I don't understand why all I saw were 41 slides, and somehow I missed the link to the report. I'd like to say how much I appreciate the huge amount of work the Board of Membership now has to do. And I had all kinds of ideas and sent them out to the board. Very excited about hustling in the immediate area, because I hate the fact that we're virtually all white. And when I saw the numbers about our ages, I mean, there are not going to be any of us left in 10 years. We ought to be 35, 40% middle-aged and younger at least, with a lot more kids up there misbehaving. So I appreciate the fact maybe that all I saw was 41 slides, and I got a lot out of it. I had one concern, which was, excuse me. That was my concern, that I'd say something rude. There was a thing about dealing with our past conflict, which was an ugly time and a painful time. And the suggestion was that some people are still grieving and some people want to relitigate. I'm not sure what that meant. Yeah, some people are still grieving. I'm frankly not among them because I can't remember anything. But the idea that those people who couldn't stop grieving, this is how it came across to me, should go find some other church. I think that's bullshit. And I also think there was no recognition of what, in my opinion, is the need. Some people did some bad things, I believe, in secrecy and talking behind people's backs. And I think some accountability for that. I don't know if I'm asking for an apology or what, but it's not, you've been hurt, go away. So that's my only concern about that recommendation.
Cameron, would you like to respond to that? If not, I'll take another question. 1 second, Ron. You're next. 1 sec. Just want to give Cameron a chance.
Well, I mean, you're articulating unprocessed grief and questions that you're still holding, which are in the way of you being able to let go of those hurts and move forward with that. So somebody and in some way, you all will need to design some sort of process. And I suspect you've already been working on this with Donna. You'll need to design some way of kind of metabolizing that hurt and that pain. And the question is not, and as Anna, I thought, put so beautifully, your work is not to re-adjudicate. That serves no one. The question is, what do you need to have present in the relationship that allows you to let go of that pain, to do so with integrity, but to let go of that pain so that you can move forward together as a congregation. So how do we help heal that wound?
Thanks, Cameron. Ron, you're next.
I would like to make an observation. and it's just my opinion. But I've been here for a while. And I care deeply for UCG. We are, and here's my opinion. We are agnostic in our belief. Remember, to worship God however known. And that means that we'll accept a lot of different ways to define it. My observation years has been that agnostic notion to accept lots of different has to some extent, can you still hear me? Has to some extent led us sort of to be a phobics.
Hmm.
Those who fear, those who we often seem to be inclined not to go for specific outcomes because we believe that all things are possible. And I think that belief is really good in some things, but in some, it's a specific outcome. I mean, it's really hard to cut a steak with a teaspoon. You need something specific. I urge at this time in our growth and at this effort that we're going about, I urge our search committee to although it may be engaged, although the process may be agnostic, its outcomes need to be specifics. We need, as I think, as a congregation, to define, to have a fairly clear idea and picture of what are the characteristics. I don't mean physical characteristics, but I mean the sort of the characteristics of ministry that we want in our next minister. We need to be specific about the things we're going to value and the outcomes that we want to have happen.
That gets driven out.
Just let me finish this last sentence and I'll go on. Because I need to tell you why I am so rapid about this, so crazy about this. I am particularly sensitive to authority and the way authority is handled and ruled and managed. Those who are in authority but are unclear about their expectations are dictators. As a person of color in America for 90 years, I can tell you what that looks like, and it ain't fun. And it's not what this congregation wants to be about. Clarity of expectations and specificity of outcomes are not inconsistent with an agnostic view of the universe.
You've just given me a lot to think about. That was a helpful observation. The search process itself will drive out, I think, some of that specificity, and it grounds it in a theological frame. So there's an actual application that the church has to complete. I'm not sure where you are in that process, but it will take you on a kind of theological, intellectual and creative journey to try to get to that level of specificity, because the next leader wants that from you as much as you're wanting it from them. So and they also in their applications have to provide some that kind of level of clarity and theological framing that I think you were inviting us to lean into. So again, this is a discernment process, but I think there are some guardrails in place that will help attend to your concerns and instincts here.
Test. Okay. All right, we have one online question.
Sue asked or stated, I do not know much about a pastor selection process, but receiving more help on it seems like a good idea. Do we pay more for that service? And that was answered by Cameron. Yes, there is a fee which Greg will or maybe already has reviewed with the church leadership before we begin. And Sue commented, got it, thank you. I'm in support.
Thanks very much, Faye Online. Just doing a check, make sure you all can hear me okay.
Yes.
Thumbs up. Okay, great. Question? Oh, got lots of questions. We'll go to Jim.
Hi, I'm Jim Harper. Actually, I have a kind of a quick announcement. It's a corollary a report to this one that I've been working on for the congregation. So I work in public relations at the University of Florida, and so I approached UCG this year to ask if they would like to work with me as a consultant. And so I've created a strategic communications plan and just handed it in Friday. So you'll have a chance to read that pretty soon. So the staff have the report, and it's focused on external communication. So a lot of what this Convergence report was talking about, it kind of builds on that. And the one thing I'm kind of really excited about is the 1 mile radius idea around this campus. Because one of the messages I want us to promote is that community is just a few steps away. People are looking for the community, they're looking for the connections. And, you know, they could also walk right by this building and not know what we are. So the idea of this external communications plan is to make ourselves more visible, to make ourselves more open to receiving visitors and potential new members who could be younger and definitely, you know, can be involved in this congregation for a long time. So I just wanted to put that out there and say, you know, I think one of the takeaways that I've gotten also from this experience of looking at UCG is that we're pretty good internally, like doing things like this, talking amongst ourselves. We're not so good externally, talking about ourselves out there and letting people know who we are. So I'm just putting that out there. Thanks.
Thanks, Jim. I think Donna, where's Donna at? Oh, there you are, hidden over there. I think Donna, you wanted to mention something, right?
I wanted to go back to what Ron was saying, and one of the recommendations that are made, this business about focusing on one thing for 1 year and saying that's what we want, is very much a part of that report. And I think it's simpatico with what you're saying about authorizing specificity.
Here and then to Mary after.
Yes, I'd like to dove my comment to what Ron and Donna just said too. We've heard a lot about change in a very vague way, and I think all of us are open to change, but in very specific and purposeful ways. I don't think we want to see willy-nilly change. I think we want to see change that has a purpose and an intent behind it and whatever.
Okay, Mary, then Jackie.
Cameron, I guess I'm confused because the process that I've always been used to is that after we went through what we did last year, there were recommendations made, and obviously we needed to look for a new minister. We have yet to come together as a congregation to define what our congregation wants in a new minister, yet we have established a search committee to start doing that. And it sounds like you're working with our search committee already to seek out candidates, and I don't feel I've given any kind of input in terms of what I want after what we went through last year with the problems, et cetera, what I envision this church might need with a new leader.
Yeah, I think we're just at the beginning of that process. We're not actively searching out or seeking candidates yet. So I think again, forgive me, because I'm, this is more Greg's lane than it is mine. But I think that you all are just forming your search committee. You're just getting the pieces in place, and that conversation that you're longing for is indeed a part of that process. So
I
I
can
would say it's
clarify
coming.
that for
Okay,
you, Cameron.
great.
Search committee met for the first time this morning and just elected chairs. The congregation at the last called congregational meeting appointed them. We will be meeting to form the process of soliciting congregational input. It has not started yet. What Cameron was speaking to with the recruitment process is something on the table before the council and has also not been approved yet. So the reason you don't have any information or haven't been solicited for input is because that we're not there yet, but we will be.
Thanks. All right. Jackie, then I'll go to this side.
So I just want to ask a question. It seems like a paradox when we say, oh, we're a great church, we love this church, and let's change.
Anna, do you want to say anything, or I certainly can, but go for it.
I think the challenge in life is that we don't have a choice. Change will happen. We saw that with the pandemic. Nobody expected that. And we had to change a lot of things. And so one of our, I would say, responsibilities to our faith is to be ready to change when whatever spiritual authority informs you calls you into a new action. And that might be that you become aware of a terrible injustice and you need to respond to that. And it could be a revelation from Holy Spirit itself, you know, depending on where you fall on this. It could be something that you hear about in your community and you feel moved to take part. We need to always be ready so that we can respond to such things. And one way we do that is by practicing. And that's why we try new things at church. It's like a proving ground, a practicing ground for getting good at it, so that then when we need to, we can change in a way that feels responsible to our beliefs, to our polity, and to the direction that God is calling us. So it's not change for change's sake. It's change so we'll be ready when the world needs us.
Go ahead.
Hello, Candace King. I have, it's actually two comments, and they're not necessarily to Cameron, just two comments, and it's regarding the recommendations, which I thought that was very well laid out. So nicely, good points brought up. First was in the recommendation about role clarification. My question, and this is just tangible, how do you do it? How do you do that when you've got the people that are in the roles really busy being in those roles? Who and how do you actually systematically go through and clarify roles, especially those informal things? And part of the reason I say that is tied a little bit to my second comment. And this is an observation. Our church does a lot. Our ministers do a lot. So it's really hard to say, well, I'm not going to do that when you know nobody else is, when you feel like it's your job. So I've been in, and I'm sure many of you have, been in organizations where somebody finally raises their hand and say, well, I'll take that on. So I'm serious about that. How are we going to do that? Clarify roles when everybody is already so busy. So the next comment is alignment and focus. This is related to what I just said. We do a lot at this church, and we oftentimes, can you hear? Temperamental mic. Yeah. We oftentimes add things which were wonderful at that because we're so responsive, but we don't let things go. And I know that may sound weird. I call that scope creep. It's a direct contradiction to zero-based budgeting, you know, starting over and saying, okay, what are we really about? So I think, once again, that's something that really needs some guidance, is how do we pare back so that we are not as stretched as we are. So right now we have one permanent minister and one temporary interim minister. We will get, we believe, one more, but those are still only 2 people. And our focus as a congregation in terms of mission has been based off of having 3+ ministers because our ministers oversee all that we do. So I think that's a huge project for us. So those are comments.
Thanks, Candace. Going to Tony next. 1 second. Let me get this back to you. No worries. No worries. I can run.
Just a very quick response to my friend Jackie's comment. I think we're a great church because we have changed. And I don't think we'll continue to be a great church if we don't change. I just think that's the nature of things.
Any questions on this side? Wait. Oh, here. Donna.
It's a great conversation about the change thing, so I'm glad we're having it. We're really good at adding, and we call adding things changing. We're terrible at subtracting, and that is also change. And I think there are a whole number of proposals in the works right now to subtract and cohere that are coming from pretty much all points in the system. The Justice League has actively cohered itself. We are looking at some very significant changes. I don't know what they're going to be in the on the personnel side of things that will be more coherent. We are in the middle stages of all of these, and I think that change really does need to be looked at the way Candace was talking about it. And we have scope creep, and if we keep that up, we will really have to have 3 ministers, and the money's not there with this size congregation. So if you want to remain budget neutral, the spirit of subtraction would be my advice very strongly, as opposed to adding. And while I've got the mic, I'll just say that I've been through the Convergence report about 5 times. I love it. It's a fantastic document. And I would like to think that we would choose either 3 and no less than 6 things that we would do. And we're beginning to do one already with Jim's unbelievably good report. I didn't want to roll it out and let you see it before we had this meeting around convergence. But if it remains consensus around more outward facing, this report is a blueprint about how to do it. So I'm going to tell you my 6 possibilities, and you get to pick 3. How does that sound? See where I'm going? And they come right out of the report. So one is neighborhood outreach. Do we want to do some now? Do we want to do some get ready to go when the new pastor comes? Wow, that would be fun. But this neighborhood is really interesting. And we were just talking, Stephanie and I, because she just moved into the neighborhood from elsewhere in Gainesville. And the myth is it's all students. But if you take the 3-mile radius that Convergence was talking about, you will see a lot of simpatico people right around here. So neighborhood outreach. 2, outward facing regarding the signs. Jim's report really wants us to do something about this gorgeous empty space we have right there. So does Convergence. That gorgeous sign we have out there. There's no reason not to have 2 signs out there, right? Or rotate those signs. But shake it up, look it up, and become more outward facing. And those signs are really important. Right now, finding us is a joke. We're hidden in a forest in here. The third is this notion of weekly changes in worship. We do that. Doesn't look like it. Don't mess with the scaffolding, but we do that. And I think the joke that I guess Carol Zagel started making with me was, it's never the same any Sunday, and it's really not. And too much change is not, whatever. The thing the thing that's most, and I'm going to write all this up, so don't worry about it. I'm also crazy about the idea of one focus. And I think the 60th is that right now. And we are the 60th for the minute. But if you want to focus for next year, maybe that'll come out of the 60th anniversary. But there's plans for this to go through Easter and to do some heavy duty theological reflection on what this however thing means. And to look at it. Is it good? Is it bad? What's good about it? And I'm very excited about that. I'm also super excited about the consolidation of the program by the art of subtraction. And this whole question of focus is the old-fashioned way would be, what is God calling us to do right now, right? However known. Or what are you being called to do? You don't even need God for that. But you do need to know what it is that's most important to do. And I think it's consolidation and subtraction of the right things and to do it lovingly. That's it.
Thanks, Don. I want to give Cameron and Anna kind of the last words as we start wrapping up. And then Cameron or Anna, anything you want to add to what you've been hearing?
Anna, why don't you go and then I'll close?
Sure. I mean, I think you guys just now in this meeting figured out which part of change you're not great at. Letting things go. So good work, everybody. You know, I'm not there with you, so I don't know all the nuances of which part you need to work on. So great work. And then you also identified some things in this conversation about being spread a little too thin. And I would say just if you don't have time for healthy communication and talking about who's going to do what in depth and who gets to make what decisions, then you're going too fast and doing too much. And it is not just you, it's every congregation we work with. And you're doing really good things, but a focus will help you with all of those things because you won't be trying to do so much. It'll help you learn to let things go, and it'll help you have the time you need for healthy communication and role clarity. So I'm just pleased as punch. You guys are figuring all this out. I'll turn it over to Cameron.
Oh, I love it. Pleased as sponge. So I want to be nerdy with you for just a second, because what was also evidence to me in this conversation is that you all, like thousands of other congregations across across North America, are symptom bearers of the stress that the way we've structured congregations is under right now. So I think it was Candace, you so beautifully articulated that you've got more work and more desire to do more in the system than you have capacity for. And what I want to say to just acknowledge is that's only going to get worse, not better. Because that's true of all of our human systems that are designed right now. All of our systems are experiencing what is becoming an unrelenting and unsustainable speed, this kind of churn that we're not really well equipped to handle. So there's a new kind of imagination that needs to come into being, and for most congregations it's not present yet. But I want to leave you all with an image that when I think about leadership, when I think about sustainable models of leadership, can you all see on your screen? Okay, so this is what is called a murmuration. I'm telling you things you already know, but I'm actually stunned at the number of people who don't know what a murmuration is. So these are starlings that are flying around, and I just find this completely mesmerizing because when we look at this, one could say that this is like a leaderless organization, that this is, you might say it's kind of chaotic. You might say, that it doesn't follow any of our hierarchical norms. But what you could also understand this as a leaderful organization. There are certain rules that hold a murmuration together. The birds are always trying to move to the center. They pay attention to the 7 other birds around them and not run into them. And so that creates this kind of organic flow. But at any given moment, any bird can be the leader, so to speak. It can change direction, and then the flock shifts with it. So there's an organic emergence quality to the way a murmuration works that I think is a teachable model for us as we think about what it means to be congregation. So we framed the imagination of your leadership structure as you have 1.5 clergy, you're going to need 3 if you continue to function in this way. Maybe, maybe not. I mean, maybe there are some different ways of functioning that are actually also more responsive to the age in which we're living in, which is only going to pick up pace, right? There's nothing on the horizon that suggests that life is going to slow down in any way, shape, or form, unless we, blow up democracy and then we have to fix some things in the process. So if we continue at this pace, then the way that we congregate is going to have to change. And at the moment, we're still in the early days of the imagination. But here's a final kind of North Star that I would hold up for us in choosing what we hold on to and what we let go is, and we may have talked about this together, but there's a researcher named Hartmut Rosa over in the Netherlands who's done a whole body of work on how do we survive this kind of constantly accelerating life that we've created. And he reminded me of a quote by Joseph Campbell, who was the great mythologist and psychologist. And he said, his experience was that people were not so much looking for the meaning of life, but the feeling of being alive. And so what Hartmut Rosa says is that we should be in pursuit, in order to stay sane, we should be in pursuit of experiences of wonder, awe, and transcendence. So when we are at our best, at our most alive, at our most present, and one might say at our most faithful, that we are in spaces that create and cultivate within us a sense of awe, wonder, and transcendence. And so when we're thinking about how we structure ourselves and what programs to hold on to, what programs to let go, what priorities to put first, or maybe send down the list, maybe the lens is what makes us come alive? What helps us change our relationship with time sufficiently that we rehuman ourselves, that we get back into the sense of awe, wonder, transcendence, and deep connection to one another and to the natural world? That's what we're all longing for, I think, fundamentally. And if we can create a community that intentionally nurtures those experiences, you're not going to have a problem with young people not digging through the trees to find you, right? They're going to seek that out, young and old alike, I think, because that's our deepest yearning right now, I think, for humanity. And I say that because I think you guys get that. At a fundamental level, that's always been something you've known. And so maybe just to recenter it as a lens.
It's always a pleasure having you, Cameron. Thank you, Anna, too, for joining us today. This is just obviously the first of many conversations as we go through this journey together. And thank you all for coming today. Appreciate it. Thanks. Bye, Cameron. Bye, Anna. Bye, everyone online. Appreciate you joining today.